A question that I get all the time from people is they tell me that I start meditating using one of the techniques, and then I drift off into some other thought that pops into my head, and I start thinking about that. And then I realize, oh, I'm not meditating anymore. So that doesn't work. Well, this is exactly what's happening to you. It's supposed to happen like that. What happens is as you start meditating, stresses that you've had in your life start to relieve themselves and start to pop up to your surface. So you're meditating about something, you're thinking about a conflict you had, say, during the day, and you start thinking about it. And then all of a sudden you say, oh, I'm not meditating. Well, you are meditating. And what's happening is once that stress has been relieved to a certain point, then you realize that now you can move back and you can focus on what you're working on before. So it's not that you're not meditating, it's that you drifted off to handle some stress and now you're coming back. And this stress could be something that you've been carrying around for 20 years, or it could happen something when you were 5 years old. You had some conflict and you start thinking about that when you're meditating. And now that stress is bubbling up to the surface, just like if you take a glass of soda and you look at the bubbles from the bottom, and as the soda's sitting there, all of a sudden you'll see a little bubble appear and then it floats to the top and escapes. That's kind of the way I envision stress in your life when it's buried in our subconscious and is buried in our mind. As we get to a relaxed state, we start thinking about these problems that we had, and they're like those little bubbles coming to the surface. And when we're meditating, and when we realize, oh, I'm not meditating anymore, which you are still meditating, then at that point you're relieving it enough, and then you can come back. Now you may start thinking about this all the time, and I went over some other techniques on how to control your thoughts and how to relieve obsessive thoughts that you may want to go back and review. But this is something normal that happens to everyone, and it will happen less and less the more you practice. So if you meditate every day, a couple of times a day, as you start relieving all these stresses in your life, those distractions and those drifts that you happen will happen less and less. But understand that this is something normal, and if it's happening, that's a good thing because you're relieving stresses in your body. You can get rid of those stresses, and now you can move back to what you were focusing on, and now you can move ahead and focus on other things. So, if you have any other questions like that, or you feel that you're not making the progress that you want to make, send me a question in the question link or post it in the comments, and I'll be glad to address those questions.